We represent the European Union. We will be discussing who we are, our views on climate change and how it can be addressed now and in the future. The European Union is made up of 28 countries which together cover much of the European continent. Some countries include France, Germany, Belgium, Austria, Croatia and Italy. The European Union was established following the Second World War to prevent future conflict and encourage economic cooperation. The European Parliament is made up of elected members from each country, and together with Council ministers, they negotiate and decide on laws, goals and budgets for the EU. For a country to become a member of the European Union, they must first apply and meet conditions for membership. But then they must enforce the EU's rules across the country and be prepared to work together to meet the goals of the European Union. Together, the EU works to ensure that fairness, customer protection and environmental sustainability are not compromised, provides financial security in times of recession, and works together to overcome the challenges of climate change.
We believe that climate change is a global issue which requires a global solution and a global effort in order to be effectively combated. However, we also believe that the European Union is an international agenda setter, as other academics have described. The European Union has become a true driving force for solutions against climate change. The threat of climate change and global warming is a serious one, which we must take with the utmost seriousness.
Agriculture is the main consumer of land and water in the EU and still plays a very large economic role in many rural communities. Some projected outcomes of climate change show a 10 to 25% decrease in yield crops by the year 2080.
The European have been facing the impacts of climate change in the last 2 decades. The impacts of European are dealing with extreme weather change and natural disaster that came with it. Extreme in winter weather and rise in sea level are the two main extreme weather that Europeans have to face. Not only the extreme weather affects the citizens' daily life, it also damages the society, economy, and physically. Extreme winter weather affects the European railway system and influences the transport system in Northern Europe. In 2010, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, and Poland experienced harsh winter weather, including heavy snowfall, low time of low temperature, and strong wind. The European railway system haven't prepared for this extreme weather and have forced it to shut down 79% of the railway system in total. Strong wind with small snowfall causes the brakes to lose their function, and slippery frozen track and fallen tree block the train along the tracks. This delay causes tons of temperature-sensitive goods to be frozen and damaged and be frozen in up cost to $250 million just in Sweden. Extreme weather causes economy damage greatly.
River flooding is the most common natural disaster in the EU and results in massive economic losses. Climate change is expected to increase severity and frequency of flooding, and by 2080 it will affect up to 400,000 additional people per year. It will also cost up to €15 million per year in economic losses and damages. This is approximately double today's cost.
Rising sea level have caused multiple damage physically to the land and adaptation to deal with it. The North Pole and the South Pole ices have been melted rapidly in the last 2 decades. As the warming of the sea came, the ice layer have been weakened and drifted up and melted to the sea. It resulted on average of 3 millimeters of sea level rises around the world. The rise of the sea level causes land loss, adaptation, wetland loss, and subrogation. The rapid change causes forced emergence, natural disaster, such as hurricanes and such. In Europe, the total of natural disaster due to the rising sea level alone is more than $200 billion, and the emergence costs more than $100 billion.
The European Union has a number of strategies, agreements and goals for addressing climate change. The EU agrees with the vast majority of goals in the Kyoto Protocol, including an international carbon trading scheme and the limitation of global warming to 2 degrees above pre-industrial times. We have ratified the Kyoto Agreement and will soon ratify the Paris Agreement. Additionally, as an example of our commitment to climate change, the EU recently ratified the 2012 Doha Amendment, which increased the list of greenhouse gases, or emissions, which we aim to reduce. We are aiming for 20% of our energy to be renewable and a 10% consumption of biofuels by the end of the year 2020. We refer to this as our 20-20-20 objective. Our solutions are well on their way to achieving their targets. A 2015 report released by the European Environmental Agency, an EU-sponsored organisation, revealed that we were well on our way to increasing our energy efficiency, decreasing our greenhouse gas emissions from factories, power plants and other installations in the system. Phase 1 of the EU ETS, or the European Emissions Trading Scheme, has been a success so far, with big power sector players in our growing emissions market encouraging competition and investment.
The potential effects of climate change are ominous. However, there has been an abundance of trends set by the European population that show an increasingly climate-conscious mindset. These trends include solar power and hybrid and electric vehicles. European Union member states have increasingly embraced solar technology throughout the last few years. Europe held a 69% share of the world's solar electricity use in 2012, powering at least 20 million homes. Large countries such as Germany, France and Italy have led the way. And it is smaller countries that have seen impressive gains in their efforts to embrace solar technology. Denmark reached their governmental goal of achieving 200 megawatts of solar electricity in 2012, a full 8 years before predicted. Nations such as Croatia, Sweden, Luxembourg and Malta have also seen steady increases in recent years. Solar power is continuing to be a vital part of Europe's ambitions to fight climate change.
Wind farms in Europe have also been a success so far. The Aiming High report, released in November 2015 by the European Wind Association, revealed that 11,791 megawatts worth of wind turbines were installed in 2014, higher than both gas and coal installations combined. As a result, we are meeting 10.2% of Europe's total electricity demand just through wind farms. As an example of continued and future success, Norway has achieved 99% renewable energy through wind farms and exports energy to other countries as a result.
Hybrid and electric cars have also been seen as the latest energy-efficient trend to be popular within the European Union, with car makers as diverse as BMW to Toyota now creating alternate fuel vehicles. The EU has proven to be the region most enthused by these products. In the first 3 months of 2016, total alternate fuel vehicle sales rose by almost 7% over the corresponding months in 2015. Over 170,000 alternate fuel vehicles were sold in the first 3 months of this year. Even though this is nowhere near a majority of vehicle sales, it is an indication that consumers within the EU are increasingly mindful of vehicle emissions and are taking advantage of the now expanding hybrid and electric car industry.
Some effects of climate change are already unable to be stopped. Even if all emissions stopped right now, the Earth would still experience a 0.5 to 1 degree Celsius rise in temperature in the coming decades. Long-term climate change goals are focused on keeping rising temperatures well below 2 degrees Celsius above the norm, in order to prevent the most catastrophic and adverse effects of climate change. This limit was agreed upon by many countries in 1992 at the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This means reducing emissions by 50% to 85% by 2050 compared to the year 2000, and halting the growth of emissions by 2020, or the limit could be exceeded. Due to developing countries needing to take the initiative on climate action, the European Union is more focused than most countries on climate change action. The European Union Adaptation Strategy wants all members of the European Union to establish national plans by the year 2017 that will address the inevitable direct effects of climate change. These strategies include using less water, adapting building regulations, increasing flood defences and developing drought-resistant crops. The European Union has 3 key targets for the year 2020. 20% cut in greenhouse emissions compared to 1990, 20% of total energy consumption from renewable sources, 20% increase in energy efficiency. The three key targets for the year 2030 are a 40% cut in greenhouse emissions compared to 1990, 27% of total energy consumption from renewable sources, and a 27% increase in energy efficiency. And by the year 2050, the European Union aims to cut emissions by 85 to 95% compared to 1990, supporting new jobs and the European economy in the long run. The sooner greenhouse emissions peak, the better, otherwise the next generation will be living with the reality of climate change. Do we really want to be responsible for that?